Hello, welcome again to another edition of Curtis Jones Writing. This time I'm doing the final book in the Love Endures All Things trilogy. This is the last 15 to 17 years Stephanie and I were married before she passed. And so I wanted to introduce you to the last book in that series. Uh, this is the logo Stephanie helped me to create when I started writing and using it on other things. And this is my dedication page, which reads, I would like to thank all those who were instrumental in my ability to bring the stories of my life into written form. Living with Stephanie Minzak Jones and our four wonderful children, making it easy, bringing those events into a written history for everyone to enjoy. Although in a very limited scope, not including the history of the world or that they would recognize, this list includes but is not limited to those I tell today. Stephanie Georgina Minzak Jones, my wife of 47 and a half years, sharing in almost every adventure. Also, my four children. I want to thank my editor, Miss Vicki Carter Meadows, who has encouraged me when I was ready to quit writing. I want to offer my heartfelt thanks. A photograph from when Stephanie and I were down at Panama City Beach, uh, probably 15 years ago. In this book, I labeled each chapter not with a play of words to reveal information about the chapter, but with the name of the location where the events took place. So the first chapter is entitled Eufaula, Alabama. I want to acknowledge my friend Miss Vicki Meadows in my inspiration to complete the series of books that constitute the three books in the Love Endures All Things. Love Endures All Things Across the Creek, the last book I read, and also this book, Love Endures All Things, The Deep South. All three books have been difficult to write since the death of my dear sweet wife, who lived through all those things I have written about. Miss Vicky has helped me to encourage or endure the difficulties of writing so many memories that are never to be again. The thought brings to my heart the joy and comfort as well as the pain of great loss. So I want to thank you, Miss Vicky. The first chapter, Eufaula, Alabama, in the book The Deep South. The trip down to Eufaula for Stephanie's interview was a little vacation and to see part of the world we had never seen before. We went south from Arkansas through Louisiana to New Orleans, and we did not go into town, but it was quite interesting. When we stopped to gas up or eat, the local accent was hard for us to understand. We continued through Mississippi, and we could understand those folks a little more easily than those we encountered in Louisiana. As we traveled east, we encountered Alabama for the first time. We thought it was a nice place. It was beautiful. There was a hurricane in late August, namely Debbie, that year when we drove through. We drove right into the western side of the storm as it moved north. The storm was not that bad. However, we were not allowed to go to the water at the beaches. It was raining pretty hard anyway. This was our introduction to the South. and it was not like Oklahoma or Colorado, and neither was it like California. It was its own special place, unlike any other we had ever visited. It was unique, and we both decided we liked it. The interview went well, and Stephanie was hired on the spot. She was given a few days to get moved down to the hotel where we would stay for the next month. We started home on the shortest route we could find. Stephanie wanted to give a 2 week notice to her current employer, and we were able to stay another night before we hit the road at 5 a.m. We also took turns driving, unless Stephanie was too tired to drive, in which case I would continue. We got back to Muldrow, Oklahoma at about 6 p.m. that same day. We sat up late into the night talking about how excited we were to start a new chapter in our lives. We talked about how pretty the little town of Eufaula was and how neat the South was in general. Little did we know just how much the South would change this old married couple. It will surely change anyone who ventures to live there after being in other parts of the world. The South turned out to be the most interesting place we'd ever lived. The 2 weeks passed very quickly, and it was time to head south. We knew it would take 13 hours to get there, so we left at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. We took turns driving, and it was my turn after we left Memphis, Tennessee, and we went on Highway 78 toward Birmingham. On that stretch of road, there were two large fishing ponds, one on either side of the road. As I passed this spot, I struggled to see if there were any alligators visible from the road. I thought the South was run over with those creatures. After I got here, I learned that there were not they were not everywhere as I had thought. In fact, we did not see any alligators for several months after we got to Eufaula. There was one thing we noticed right away: the difficulties of leaving our family behind when we moved on. Of course, we missed our children, but we especially missed our grandkids. I used to babysit for Mike's two children almost every day. I think that loneliness was harder on me than it was on Stephanie. She only seen them mostly on the weekends. The stay in the motel is a different style of living. You have to go out to eat most every meal. Laundry is done at a coin operated laundromat. The laundry is packed up and hauled to the laundromat where it is washed, and it's dried and folded up before you can come back home. We learned from this experience to stay at hotels that had an on-site laundromat. Otherwise, I had to drive Stephanie to work to go to pick her up when needed. I didn't look for a house until we had been there for 2 weeks or maybe a little more. It gave us time to save the initial rental expenses. Most places required first and last month's rent and a cleaning deposit. This can be as much as 3 times the monthly rental fee. Then we had the utilities deposits as well. We had not had the utility deposit or had not rented a house for almost 20 years, and we were shocked at the prices to get into a rental. This wasn't that far from the down payment to buy an older home. In all, we spent 4 weeks in the motel. I searched quite diligently to find a suitable house as close to where Stephanie worked as I could. Life in the motel can be so boring with little to occupy your days. I began to take long walks down to the lake, that is Lake Eufaula, and the boat ramp. I finally found a nice 3 bedroom house on the road to Clayton, Alabama. Stephanie had found a shortcut to work just off this road. The landlord I had was a kind old gentleman named Wade Champion with his wife Hazel. I had to have a fence in the backyard and it had to be in our price range. Wade liked me, and we only had to pay first month and a small deposit. I liked Wade and Hazel immediately after he told me what it would cost us to move in. We agreed and signed a 1 year lease. When I told Stephanie about it, she was just as happy as I was. We moved into the house as soon as I got the utilities turned on. We were lucky to find Wade because he thought it better to rent to an older couple with no children at home. It looked like we were both winning or winners in this agreement. It was the first time we were referred to as an older couple. Wade was a very good landlord. They were the best landlords we could have had. They were a blessing to us. After renting the house, I went to the local furniture store and I bought a used bedroom set and 2 folding beach chairs. The house came with a cook stove and a refrigerator. It was a 3 bedroom with a master bath and a bathroom in the hall. We were very comfortable there. That is when it became difficult to pay all the bills we owed. 2 houses in Oklahoma and renting one in Alabama now. I had sold one house to one of our sons, but he never made one payment, never made but one payment the whole time he was there. The house in town we rented to another son who made all of the house payments to the bank. We still had to pay the taxes and the insurance on both those places, so we made do. About a month after we rented the place from Wade, Stephanie took a 4 day weekend so we could move our furniture down and get my pickup. It was a three it was a 13-hour drive one way. We really needed the 4 day weekend if we were going to get everything done. The trip to Oklahoma was uneventful, and all the kids and some friends came and loaded all the stuff we decided to take to Alabama. We had loaded everything we were going to take by Sunday, and we were finished. We were on our way early Monday morning. I drove the U-Haul and used a car hauler to pull the car. Stephanie drove my pickup and pulled the trailer with our hot tub. She went to work Tuesday, and I got busy unloading the truck and returned it that day. It was the last day we were able to keep it without an extra charge. Stephanie started setting up the house as soon as she got home every day. It didn't take long until we were at home again. The beach chairs we had used for a month were retired to, to their intended use, and we enjoyed our recliners once again. We went to the beach at Panama City, Florida, as much as 2 weekends a month in the warm weather. We were burned every time for the first 3 trips. We loved Eufaula. It was convenient for what we wanted to do. We took full advantage of our new location as often as possible. When we went for the furniture, we brought our Sharpei dogs home with us. My mother had kept our female Cleo, short for Cleopatra. She was pregnant, and I didn't want to leave her with a son who had to go work most days. Cleo had delivered the puppies within a week of the time we picked her up, and we added 7 little Sharpei puppies to the family. The last litter she had brought us, or brought, was featured on the local news station, Channel 5, out of Fort Smith, Arkansas. I sold all 6 of them for $1,000 each. When Sharpei puppies first open their eyes, they have to have a medical procedure called an eye tack. This is when the eyelid is turned inward and the eyelashes rub the eyeball and scratches the eye. The procedure sews the eyelid in such a way that they cannot turn inward and injure the eyeball. When the puppies were 3 weeks old, I had to get their little eyes tapped to prevent blindness. No one anywhere near me knew how to do that. I called my daughter, Michelle, and her vet had done the operation on her pups. I made the trip to her house and spent the night and had the pup's eyes done the next day early. I then came back home proud that I didn't have to go to Oklahoma to get it done. When I began to sell the pups, I had an elder from the church I went ask for one. I took the puppies to a local vet and had them look at and make sure they were healthy. I told Randall, the older gentleman, and his wife, come by and pick out the pup that they wanted. They took him home, and 3 days later, they called me and said that the pup's eyes had burst and they wanted to return him. I said, bring him back and get another. I had never had such a thing happen with any of the pups I'd raised. When they came, the wife said that while their little grandchildren were playing with him in their backyard, is when the pup began to cry like it was in great pain, and the little boy threw him down and ran out. They ran out to him to see that one of his eyes was put out. Vandal was a rich man whose grandchildren had poked the eye out of this little puppy, and he made me pay for the carelessness of his care of that dog. He was no Christian. Wearing the name doesn't mean anything to some people. I gave that puppy to a nice family that wanted one but couldn't afford a puppy. After the vet got through with it, he said it was otherwise healthy. I didn't sell any more puppies in Eufaula. I called the puppy buyer I knew in Missouri, and I sold the whole litter at least all that were left to him. I came home with $4,500 in my pocket, and we paid off some bills and had a trip to the beach as a bonus. I never did like Randall after he cheated me. He wanted to buy a house that a woman who worked with Stephanie wanted to sell. Randall asked me about it. I knew all of the problems the house had, and I said nothing about it to Randall, and he bought it. It was an awful mistake to buy that house, he later told me. I said nothing, but I did smile just a little on the inside. One day we got up and a news story came over the television. An airplane had crashed into one of the two towers called the Twin Towers in New York City. Stephanie and I looked at each other and asked if that was some kind of sick joke. Stephanie left for work, and in about 5 minutes, another announcement was made that another airplane had crashed into the other one of the Twin Towers. All I felt was disbelief. I called Stephanie to ask if she had heard about the second crash, and while we were talking, the Pentagon was struck. We were clearly under attack from the terrorists in the Middle East. Shortly after the towers began to collapse, the sorrow of that day was overwhelming to the whole world. I'm sure that the way Stephanie and I handled the news was much like everyone else did. We were quiet and didn't talk much. What was there to say when so much life is stolen away by hateful persons? When Stephanie and I were in college, we were very mistrustful of anyone who looked like they were from the Middle East. My landlord had been on a bus tour with his wife to New York when he got home. He showed me his footage of the two towers taken when the attacks happened. His film was like a national news footage. It was like the national news footage. He was maybe 2 miles away when this happened. And I'm sure most people remember where they were when the announcement was made. I even remember what I was doing. Mike, our oldest son, came down to visit us on his way to the beach. It was a nice visit. It was just after the attack. The visit helped to move the mood back to a little bit of what was normal before the two towers came down. Stephanie's plant was sold shortly after those events. The owners of the plant were from Thailand, and the majority of those folks were of the Muslim religion. I wonder if that could have been the reason the plant sold. Whether the reason, whatever the reason, my Stephanie was in management, and she, along with all the other management people of that plant, were dismissed. She had 3 weeks to work before her last day. It seemed like, or it seemed that the efforts of the attack were reaching even into southern Alabama. Stephanie called the headhunter that got her this job and put him to work looking for another job. Within a week, he had found the plant in Farmersville, Louisiana, that needed a quality manager. Stephanie got a call within a few days, and an interview was set up. Stephanie wanted me to go with her, and we took the car and drove to Farmerville for the interview. She was hired that day, and this was going to be our next adventure. We didn't know much about Louisiana, but we were about to find out. The company was going to provide a moving service, and sent Mayflower to move us. We made all arrangements with them, and they packed up everything and would and kept all in storage until we called to arrange for the delivery. They even hauled one car and the hot tub, the best move ever. All we had to do was pack up what we needed at the motel, and I took my computer with us. That is how we kept in touch with family at that time. I hope you've enjoyed this story. The next story is entitled Farmerville because the events happened in that city, and that's where we'll pick up the next time I present one of these stories. I will post this one today, and I'll probably read two or three today because I'm still building the addition on my deck in back of the house, and it takes a lot out of me when I do that, so I don't present any stories for those of you that like to watch these and count on them being posted. But I hopefully will have three or four posted, uh, one each day until they run out, and that way I can work on that deck some more. God bless you and keep you. If you like what I do, hit the like button, subscribe to it, and if you like it, share it with one of your friends or family members that you think might enjoy these stories. They're all true stories. Uh, it's a life history for myself from about 7 years old or 9 years old up until about 40 or 72 years old. So I think you'll enjoy them. Uh, God bless you and take care. If you get in a hurry, you can go to my web page, which is curtis-jones-books.squarespace.com. And they tell you about every one of the books I've written there, or I do. And you can also find a link that will take you to Amazon where you can purchase these books in either ebook format or paperback. I do the same over on my Curtis Jones author page on Facebook. You can do that there too. God bless you and take care. Stay out of the heat. Love you.